now we're going to do 2 hip opening poses, one for the outer hip and one for the inner hip, inner thigh. Really important to open and stretch these areas if you're someone that tends to hold your tension in your hips, or if you spend a lot of time sitting and they get kind of frozen in one position just from the amount of time that you spend in that position, or even if you're spending a lot of time standing as well. Any time that you're in one position for a prolonged amount of time, it starts to really limit your range of motion, your flexibility, your mobility in any joint, so particularly hips. Let's start with one-legged pigeon pose. So we're going to come into downward dog. So to get there, just come into your hands and knees. We'll start from here. Hands under the shoulders, knees under the hips, tuck the toes. Right? Pressing the hips up towards the ceiling. Push your chest through the arms. Heels reach towards the floor. Knees can be a little bit bent or straight, as long as we're pointing the tailbone up to the ceiling. Press into the hands. Take a breath. Relax the neck. So from your downward dog, we're just going to step the hands a little bit more forward on the mat. We're going to step the right foot forward, almost as if you're going to do a lunge, but instead of lunging, we're going to bring the foot, kind of toss it up towards your left wrist and lay your shin and your knee down to the ground. So you kind of want to have your knee behind your right hand and your foot behind your left hand. So your leg is still within the space of your body and not going all the way across, out to the side. Right, so just right underneath you. And then depending on how much mobility you have in your hips, your foot might not get very far up. That's fine, as long as it's not directly underneath your butt. So if it's not coming forward, just grab it, slide it a little bit more in front of your opposite leg. Right? Flex that foot, so flex the toes back, and actively try and push the pinky edge of your foot into the floor. Right? From here, back knee is down on the floor. Before we go any further, just test how you feel here. So this might already be a lot of stretch for your outer butt, hamstring, hip area. Right? And you want to make sure that the hip bones are pointing straight ahead and we're not turning sideways with the hips, right? So keeping the hip bones pointing straight ahead. If this is feeling not too bad for the hip and you feel like you can push a little bit further, you're going to start to inch your back leg a little bit at a time, going up behind you, again making sure not to twist sideways, so staying facing forward. Right? And then if you're kind of somewhere in between and you need to be up a little bit, you can always use a block to kind of wedge it under your butt on one side so you're not feeling like you're suspended in the air. And then for the rest of the time that you're here, you can either stay upright, supported with your arms, giving yourself a little bit more of a back bend, just being aware that if you're in the back bend, you want to keep the belly a little bit sucked in so that you're not compressing your back, but really supporting it there. Or you could choose to fold down onto the elbows, or maybe right down to the forehead, depending on what feels good for you, so that you don't have to do as much work while you're getting your hip stretched. It just depends on what you want. Change from day to day. Maybe you want more back bending, maybe you just want to focus on the hip, whatever you need. Just stay listening to your body, stay honest with yourself, and be kind with yourself as well. So you want to give this a lot of time, so we'd stay for a little bit longer than the usual 5 breaths. If you can go all the way to 10 breaths, that's great, because again, pelvis, it's really kind of like the bridge between our lower body and our upper body, so it carries a lot of weight. We ask a lot of the pelvis. We sit, we stand, we walk with the pelvis and the hips and the glutes. So just making sure we give it a lot of time, a lot of care. While you're here, slowing the breath as much as you can. Give it one more. And it's coming back nice and easy. So kind of crawl your way back to your downward dog. So press the hips up. Release that leg up. Maybe you want to shake it out a little bit. Circle the ankle a few times. Maybe do a little bit of pedaling while you're here. then setting up for the other side. So left foot stepping forward, your left foot going towards your right hand, and your left knee coming behind your left hand, right? So knee to hand and foot to hand. Flexing the toes. See if you can bring that foot a little bit higher up instead of leaving it down behind you, right? But only if your hip is okay with that. So as you're setting up this front leg, if you're feeling something in your knee, you don't want that. So you could ease off a little bit. If you're feeling it all in the hip and the butt, that's what we do want, so accept that's what you're gonna feel for the next few moments. And again, you could stay upright, you could put a block under your butt, or you could get a little bit lower. And then again, perhaps maybe staying up the whole time, or maybe half the time, or folding down onto the elbows. Heavy pelvis. Both hip bones pointing down to the floor, so just check that you're not rocking to one side. You want to be equal with the hip. So take that long leg behind you, that hip, drop it down, rotate it down towards the floor if it's tempted to go sideways. Folding over that front leg. So as you fold down, that's always a good reminder to kind of turn your attention inwards to yourself, to how you're feeling, how you're breathing. See if you can smooth the breath out. Listening for every inhale and every exhale. Really working on those hips, letting go of tension. As the hips let go of tension, usually our lower back feels a little happier with that as well. So just kind of thinking about the good ripple effects that you're spreading out into the rest of your body as you start with one point, so the hip in this case, releasing it, giving it some attention, and letting those ripple effects spread out through the rest of how you feel. And then again, just come back slowly, crawl your way back in, or you can just rock off to the side and bring your butt back to the floor. So actually, let's come to sitting for our next hip opener. So now we're going to do bound angle, right? Or Baddha Konasana in Sanskrit. So this one is sometimes called the butterfly, depending on which style of yoga you're practicing. So we're making a sort of a diamond shape with the legs, sitting upright on the floor. Sitting upright is usually the hardest part. So just kind of feel your pelvis, kind of rock it back and forth a few times to really feel the difference between being way back and coming way forward. So we want to be forward, right? The more back you are, the more compression or pressure you're putting into your spine, which we don't want, right? So you want to roll forward and try to be right on top of your sit bones. If that means you have to take the feet further out in front of you, that's fine, right? Better to start with a good upright pelvis. Or if that means you need to be up on a cushion or a block, so that if you're still feeling rolled back, then you can help yourself sort of rock forward again. All right, so if you can stay forward and have the heels close in, that's fine. If you need them further away, that's fine. Knees just end up wherever they end up. You don't have to hold them up, you don't have to push them down. If they're up, they're up. If they're down, they're down. Right? Try and just let them go. If you do need to do a little bit of butterfly flutters, just to help yourself relax. So not to work it, just to kind of let go of that temptation to hold on while you're here. So focusing on the spine, sitting up tall. And then just sitting like this, if this is already lots of sensation, lots of pulling and opening inner thighs, inner hips, don't need to do anything else. You're just going to try and maintain here. Rest your hands wherever is comfortable. Right? Try to keep the neck in line with your spine. So again, we're not dropping the chin forward or pulling way back, right in the middle. And then if you're here and you're starting to feel pretty comfortable and you want to go a little bit more into that stretch hip opening feeling, then you can start to lean forward very, very gradually. So I'm not using my hands to pull me down. I'm actually actually just trying to do that same rocking pelvis action and bring it even more forward. So I'm rocking forward from my pelvis, I'm kind of pulling my belly forward and trying to pull my chest forward, and basically trying to stick my butt out. That's going to keep the spine protected and really focus the sensation of the pose into the hips and inner thighs. Right, so if you want to hold on to your feet, that's fine, as long as you're not gripping for dear life, just resting the hands down. Or if you like to walk the hands out in front of you, again, your choice. Wherever you end up, we're going to stay for a little while. So you could also have options for your neck. So you could also look straight ahead, right, if that feels good. Or if you like to hang the head down, you can drop the head right down. Sometimes people might get triggered into a headache when they hang their head down. So if you don't want to do that, you can just look straight ahead. But if it feels relaxing, you can go ahead and drop the head down. And again, it just takes time. So try and give yourself a good amount of time here. Working into those hips. Breathing into the sensations that you feel. Knowing that we're not going to be here that long. So try and stay with it just for a few moments out of your whole day. Really opening up the low back again as well. Try and relax the shoulders, letting go of any extra tension that isn't necessary for the pose. And then after 5 to 10 breaths, just make your way back up nice and slow. Maybe do a little, I like to do a lean back afterwards. And just relax your belly, relax your hips, shake out the legs a little bit, relax your back. Just feel how good it feels to be done with those now. All right.